and then we'll dive in. Father, thank you for our break coming up a week from Wednesday. I pray you help us as we study for this midterm, and I pray that that test will be very encouraging for what we've learned. I pray you help us as we study today. In Jesus' name, amen. So, this will be the midterm. So write out the Hebrew alphabet. Can you say the alphabet with me? Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zion, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samik, Ayin, Pei, Tzadeh, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tav. 22 letters. You all feel good about that? So this chart can seem a little overwhelming. It's really pretty easy. These are going to be the consonant letters, and so on here it's Kametz Hey, Sere Yod, Hirik Yod, Holam Vav, and Shuruk. All those are long and they can't change. They'll never reduce. These are changeably long, so they're considered long vowels, but they can reduce to other vowels. So notice the difference. You've got where you had a Kametz Hey, you just have a Kametz. A Sere, you don't have any changeably long I-class vowel. You just have the Holam, and you have Kibbut. Actually, we should scribble that one out, because I think it's only long when it's being defectively written. So scribble that one out, if you will. The short are the Patah, Segol, Hirik by itself, the Kametz Hatuf, so that's that O class. It looks like the long A, but it's the short O. And then the Kibbutz goes there. And then the half vowels are the compound versions of these, right? So whatever these are, you add a schwa to it and you get the... So that's doable, right? That's not too hard. The chart, if you've taken Greek, you know there are like 50 charts we have to learn. This is the only one we have to learn for the nouns. So it's just that one, pretty easy. Commit that to memory. Then the call perfect, or as I have it listed there, the G perfect Grundstem, some people call it, but we'll call it the call. So that is just the katal, katala, katalta, katal, katalti that we learned. Then we have the same thing in the imperfect, which is the yiktol, tiktol, tiktol, tiktoli, yaktol form. And that's pretty easy. And so if we get to this point in the test, that's worth 100 points. So all of those, we should be able to get that pretty easily. You feel pretty good about that? Not too much? The vocab, we will have 135 words. You can see how many times they're used. So you really want to get these first ones down because they appear everywhere. I think we probably have most of them already. What's the last one we did? Was it 75 to 90 was the last one, maybe? Oh, 105. Yeah, okay. So we still have 9B, which will be 106 to 120. Oh, yeah, and then 121 to 135. So we have 9B and 10B. But they're all, pretty easy. Adam, how long will you have to study that to get that one? Herev is sword. Adonai, some of these are really pretty easy. Anoki, we've had Yam, Adon, Lord. So Yaakov, Jacob. So really, these are going to be pretty easy for us. So the only thing that we really have to study is we're adding a little bit to Genesis 1:1. We're going to go all the way through 8. That's day 2. We're going to add the Shema, and then we're going to add the first two verses of the Ten Commandments. So it's really pretty easy. I wish I figured out a way to number these, but because, when you do this, you're writing backwards, I couldn't get the numbers where I wanted them. So I may just go through by hand and write those down. But what I'm looking for is Bereshit, in the beginning, bara Elohim, God created, et hashamayim, the heavens, va'et ha'aretz, and the earth. So I'm just wanting you to, I've broken these up into phrases, and you just translate there. So I think we've probably let there be light, and there was light. God saw the light, that it was good. Elohim caused a separation between the light and between the darkness. God called to the light day, to the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, day 1. That's 1 to 5, so we only have 3 more verses. Have we done those 3 verses at all, or is that new? Well, nice thing is, half the words we've already done. Vayomer Elohim, what is that? And God said. That appears 10 times in Genesis 1. Yehi Rakia. So we've had Yehi Or. And we should just translate this Rakia because you've got to look up all the parallel texts. People go with dome. One contemporary translation says God created a something. I'm not sure that that's much of an improvement of a rakia myself. So let there be a rakia in the midst of the waters. And let it be. So this is going to be a new word for us. This is actually a hithial participle. Now, remind me what a hithial is. So we've got our handy-dandy menorah. This is a way to remember everything in terms of Hebrew verbs. One, two, three, four, five, six. So we have the call. That's going to be the simple. The nifal is going to be the passive of the call, right? Piel is intensive. Pual is the passive of the intensive. Hifil is the causative. Hofal is the passive of the causative. and Hithpael is the middle one. So if this is a Hithpael participle of the word separate, what would that mean? Okay, so that's your indicative. How would we take that indicative and make it a participle? Do you know what a participle is? Okay, participle is an ing form of the verb. Technically, a participle is a verbal adjective, meaning just like an adjective, like if you say the good man, good is an adjective. It's verbal in that it's a verb, so that's where you get your ing form. So the running man looked very tired. Running is a participle, but can you hear how that's functioning as an adjective? The running man. What kind of man is he? He's a running man, right? So this is a participle from the words separate, and it's a Hithpael. Nearly always when you have a mem and a hierarch yod between the second and third, it's always going to be a Hithpael participle. Let it be, how would you translate that, would you think? Let it be separating, or let it be causing a separation. And then, do you see how this is parallel to day one? Bain Maim Lamaim. Didn't we have Bain Ha'or Uvein Ha'hoshek, between the light and between the darkness? So this same word. But now it's let it be a separating thing between waters to waters. Do you see that? And Elohim made the rakia. So let there be a rakia. So that's called an anaphoric use of the definite article, where you introduce something and then you start calling it the. Anaphoric use where it's pointing back to that original use. And Elohim made the rakia. And then the grammar is a little unclear to a lot of people here. It could say, and he caused a separation between the waters. Or it could be the rakia caused the separation. It can be either one of those grammatically. I'm torn. God separates between the light and the darkness, so you could go that way, but the rakia, since the rakia is a separating thing, I think that probably makes the rakia a subject of this. Let it cause a separation between the waters which are above, which were from under to the rakia, and between the waters which were from upon to the rakia. I think that's the waters above the rakia and the water below. Vayehi Cain. We had that from day one, didn't we? God said it, Vayehi Cain. And it was so. Let me ask you a question. We rest our mind a second on this. If we were part of Moses' first audience, and we were in the plains of Moab, and Moses brought out Genesis for the first time for us to hear, and we heard it. We're Jews. And he talks about the violent splitting of waters and dry land appearing. Is there an image that comes to your mind? What image? You mean you don't get a concrete dome? You don't build yourself a time machine and go forward in time 500 years so you don't go to community college and learn Akkadian so that you can read the one copy we have of Enuma Elish. That's not what comes to your mind. What comes to your mind is the splitting of the water at the Red Sea. Yeah, me too. Of course, that's what you would think about. God splits the abyss. We just experience this, right? And God's saying, when I created the universe, I did it like this, and dry land appeared. He's saying it's just an inverted miracle at the Red Sea. At least that's what I think it is. Vayikra Elohim larakia shamayim. We had this exact sentence on day one, only a couple words have been changed. Vayikra Elohim laor yom ve'lahoshet kara layilah, right? And God called to the light day, and to the darkness he called night. So how would you translate this one? Vayikra Elohim la rakia shamayim. We've had shamayim already. What is shamayim? So that's mayim. Shamayim would be, it's the other one. Bereshit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim va'et ha'aretz. So that's that heaven word, right? So what would Vayikra Elohim larakia shamayim be? Lindsay, do you have a guess? Perfect. And God called, and that's the idiom that you see in Hebrew, God called to the rakia, but I think you did it rightly. God called the rakia shamayim. Vayehi erev, vayehi boker, yom sheni. So if we read this whole thing in Hebrew, and I think there's only one English translation that does it this way, but literally what it says in Hebrew is Vayhi erev, vayhi boker, yom echad, day one, a second day, a third day, a fourth day, a fifth day, the sixth day, and then 3 times it says the seventh day. Day one, which is your cardinal number, a second day, a third day, a fourth day, a fifth day, the sixth day, so anarthrous, 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 arthrous, or articular, and then 3 times it says the seventh day. Do you find that interesting? So here's my hypothesis. It's absolutely meaningless. There's nothing in there for us to think about at all. Don't look. Just keep moving. Right? You don't buy that. What's the problem with that view? It's assuming that whoever wrote it doesn't know the difference between an ordinal, a cardinal, an anarthrous noun, and an arthrous noun. which, considering that it's part of the best-selling book of all time, to assume that somehow the author doesn't pick up stuff we pick up, that seems strange to me. But you see it, right? It doesn't say Yom HaSheni, right? Or Hayom HaSheni. It just says Yom Sheni, a second day, a third day. And so you ask the question, well, why does it say the sixth day? So what happens on the sixth day in the story? Audrey, what happens on the sixth day? Man's created. Future anniversary of anything in this story? What day is the sixth day of the week? Anything else happen on Friday? Big thing, little thing, big thing? Have you ever picked up that the same day man was created is the day Jesus died? I mean, is it possible God's foreshadowing things in the story? Have you ever thought about Jesus rising on a Sunday as, in effect, rising on the 8th day or the first day of new creation? Have you ever thought about that? Did you know that the first fruits, well, if there's evening and morning day one, if the Sabbath is Saturday, if you're counting your days, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like the world is created on a Sunday or the start of a Sunday. The 10 Commandments are given on a Sunday. The first fruits are offered. The Holy Spirit is given on a Sunday. Jesus rose from the dead on a Sunday. I don't know. How much of that do you think is built in the language? Because my hunch is a lot of it's built in the language. And I don't know. I kind of wish they would do this a second day, the sixth day, because that's what it says in Hebrew. Cardinals, ordinals, anarthrous, and articular. Then this one's probably going to be easy for us. This is the Shema. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Ve'ahavta. I don't know how it happened, but when I say the word ve'ahavta, in my mind I hear the word agape. I don't know. Do those words sound similar to you, or have I just associated them somehow? I don't know which it is, but when I look at this word, I hear the word agape. And you will agape the Lord your God with your whole lave, with your whole nephesh, and with your whole me'od. Your heart, your soul, and your muchness, everything that makes you you. And then the last thing we have is just that little introduction to the 10 Commandments. Vayidaver Elohim, and God declared, Piel, all the words, all these words, saying, Anoki Adonai Eloheka, I'm the Lord your God, who, Hotsetika, that's a Hithiel, first common plus second masculine subformative, who caused you to go out from the land of Midterm, from the house of slaves. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we can handle that much Hebrew? So what's the hard part of the Hebrew midterm going to be? And you'll have a whole hour to do it.
It's going to be hard to memorize 135 words, kind of. Like, I know we've already done them, but at the same time.
Can I give you a suggestion? So in my Dropbox, there's the PDF of this and the Microsoft Word. I would print it out, and the ones you get right away, go into the document and delete them. That way you're only studying the ones you don't know. And keep taking the test until you know them all. Have I ever told you the story about when I stood for my licensure exam in the PCA? So the PCA, the Presbyterian Church in America, takes examination of candidates for the ministry really seriously. And I was coming out of a different denomination into the PCA. And I already had a PhD, and I maybe assumed that that was going to count for something, but when I went for my licensure exam, which allows you to preach regularly in a PCA church, you're not ordained, but you can preach regularly. They want you to have memorized the Westminster Shorter Catechism. Well, I didn't grow up in the Presbyterian church, so I'd never memorized it as a child. So there are three of us, and we're sitting for our exams, and it was a church in north of Atlanta, and they had this big spread. You know, we went in to appear before the committee, and they had Cokes and donuts and everything for them. And for us, you know, in like nurseries, how they have the little kids' chairs, you know? So they had three little kids' chairs. It was in a nursery thing. So they had us sit down, you know, and I'm a tall person. Like I felt like my knees were, you know, we're kind of looking up to them. And they're asking us questions, and we were all just nervous and answering. And finally, the chairman of the committee, he was kind of a grumpy old fellow, but, you know, effective minister, but a little grumpy. He said, I think the three of you candidates are the worst candidates who've ever appeared before our committee. And then he turned to me and he said, you're the worst of all of them. So we all just, laughed, and I memorized the Shorter Catechism, but the way I did it is, you know, it was 110 questions. I printed the whole thing out, and when I started getting them right, I'd delete those, and then I'd take the test again, and I'd delete it. And it took me about a week, but like even now, decades later, I remember the things because it got in my long-term memory. So, but he did say that I was the worst candidate ever to appear before the credentials committee. And so, I don't know, I should get a ribbon or something. So, that's going to be a little bit of the hard part for us. But the good news is we have 10 days. Some of the words we know already, like Yisrael, right? So basically, you have access to my Dropbox, so you can print out the clean copy, save it to your hard drive, delete the ones you get right away, and keep taking the test until you get it down to all. The other thing you can do is play a game. like you do a random number generator and say, okay, translate 63, and you go down, okay, eam. What is eam? Oh yeah, isn't that the Emmanuel word? Emmanuel, L is with us. And, in a group, if you do that, you can make it kind of fun. It keeps you on your toes. So I don't know. Do you feel okay with what you need to do between? So it'll be on Wednesday. So we'll do 9B this Wednesday, 10A this Friday, 10B a week from today, and then we'll do the midterm on Wednesday. And then, as soon as this class is over, we're on fall break. Get 4 whole days to do whatever we want. So I'm really pleased with how well you're studying. If you have any question at all, my door's always open, so come by. But if not, that's what I have for you today. All right.